Hi, welcome to another edition of the Alan Rosenberg Show. It is 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I got home from work about an hour ago. I do not see the news the whole day. So I just had dinner, got home, put my computer on, and newsflash, I see that Dickey Betts passed away today at the age of 80. Apparently he died of cancer. I know he had like some kind of a stroke 20, probably about 5 or 6 years ago. And of course, he's pretty low profile over these years since he's been out of the Allman Brothers, especially. So, unfortunately, he passed away. It sounds of cancer today, with his family around him. So, a very sad loss. My history of the Allman Brothers, I'm a huge fan. Here's one of my T-shirts that I have. If you could see that. And yeah, I got my pajamas on because I was gonna get ready to go to bed. I'm tired. But my history of the Allman Brothers. So I was born in '63. My sister is 4 years older. Had great taste in music. I've mentioned that many times. But when I grew up in our house, her room, she had like four posters. One of the posters was a Stones poster, which was her favorite band. She had a Yes poster, loved Yes. Then she had a Bob Dylan poster from the Dylan Greatest Hits album, and she had an Allman Brothers poster. And those are probably her four, but certainly the Allman Brothers, way up there as her favorite band. So I grew up at a very young age loving the Allman Brothers, the epitome to me of Southern rock, and I think to most people. So quickly, let's go through some of their stuff there. She had Brothers and Sisters, and she had Beginnings, this album. Beginnings is a compilation of their first two albums, because their first two albums in America were not hits, of course. You're talking about the Allman Brothers Band album, which came out in '69, and then Out of Wild South in '70. Amazing albums, perfect Southern rock albums for sure, but they weren't big hits. The Allman Brothers really didn't make it really big in America. Their big hit album was the third one, which was, of course, Live at the Fillmore East. And lots of versions of this one. There it is right there. One of the all-time greatest live albums. I also have it on SACD. And then later on, they even did a reissue. It's not exactly that. It's a more of a compilation of performances, some from the original album, some not. The Fillmore concert. So it expanded, but there's lots of editions of the Allman Brothers Fillmore shows. So that was their third album, and that was a huge hit in America. So we're talking like 69, 70, 71. And then 72, they did Eat a Peach, which, of course, they had that terrible tragedy. Duane Allman passed away in a motorcycle accident, and then Barry Oakley, the bass player, did like a year later. There's lots of other compilations. This is the Allman Brothers live at the Fillmore in 1970. You'll see I have like everything by the Allman Brothers, pretty much. Just love the band. They hit their peak in America in '73 with Brothers and Sisters, which is their biggest album in America, and of course had the smash hit Ramblin' Man, sung and written by Dickey Betts. And then there's lots of different versions of Allman Brothers albums. Here's a deluxe edition, and there's bigger deluxe editions of their albums. They're just amazing, amazing stuff for sure. So when Brothers and Sisters came out in '73, I was 10 years old. It was a great time to be an Allman Brothers fan. That's their epitome of popularity. You're talking about they did that big concert, Watkins Glen. I think they said there was 300,000, then it's 500,000. Now they said it was like 1 million people there. Who really knows the truth? But that was Allman Brothers, the band, and the Grateful Dead. But then they kind of fell apart, of course. After Brothers and Sisters, they started having trouble. 2 years later, '75, they did Win, Lose, or Draw. Probably their worst album. Definitely, in my opinion, their worst album, except for those Arista albums, which I barely even count. So Win, Lose, or Draw came out in '75, and then they were pretty much done. They put out a compilation live record, Wipe the Windows, Check the Oil, Dollar Gas, which is not even a pimple on the ass of Fillmore East. I mean, it's really, it was a kind of a sad way to go out. And that was the end of the Allman Brothers for what seemed like a long time. Back then it was a long time. So that was like '75. I grew up on Long Island, as you know, probably. Long Island was the hotbed of Southern rock in the late 70s or mid to late 70s. I was a huge Southern rock fan and still am to this day. And I've gotten to see most Southern rock bands. They would play the Nassau Coliseum and other places. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful time. Got a lot of radio play, radio stations would add live concerts. Just great. So in 1979, when the Allman Brothers reformed and they put out Enlightened Rogues, I was 79, I was 16 years old, and I was very excited. And I thought this was a great album, and this is Dickey Betts' album. If you looked at the songwriting and what's on there, you know, Greg Allman is on the album, but as far as writing goes, this is Dickey Betts' album. This is a great Allman Brothers album that's, I think, kind of forgotten, unfortunately. But it's a tremendous album. Now, I got to see them live for the first time in 79 on that Enlightened Rogues tour. There you go, David. That one took a beating. But this is actually kind of cool. So I've showed bits and pieces of this once in a while. This is book one of many books that I have of my archives of concerts I went to. And I'm going to show you something that I think you're probably going to think is pretty cool. Some people said you should show more of this. So I'll show it, you know, things like this. So we're talking like 79. Give me a second here. So I'll give you an idea. So here is 79. I got thousands of clippings. There's the Charlie Daniels Band at the Nassau Coliseum. May had 30th row. Papa John Creech, special guest, and the Henry Paul Band was the opener. And underneath there is the New Barbarians. I don't know if you're interested in seeing that. So that was May of 79. Bear with me. Also, what was after that? There we go. July of 79 is the Marshall Tucker Band. That is also at the Nassau Coliseum with special guest Orleans. And below that, right there's your Allman Brothers. There's the actual concert ad and the ticket stub. Madison Square Garden, Allman Brothers featuring Bonnie Bramlett and Jim Essery with special guests, the Atlanta Rhythm Section, July 26, 1979. Pretty cool. Tickets were a whopping $11. And there's a full-page review of the concert right there. I thought they were absolutely amazing. So the Allman Brothers, first time I saw them was in 1979 for Enlightened Rogues. Unfortunately, they went down again. And the Allman Brothers have such a history of going up and down and up and down. They released those two terrible albums on Arista Records, Reach for the Sky and Brothers of the Road, which I don't even have. But I do have this video that came out, which was a live video concert from around that time. Dickey Betts still in the band. But definitely not a highlight of their career. And that was pretty much the end of the Allmans for a long time. That was like 81 when they broke up again. And then a really great thing happened. Oh, by the way, talking about the Enlightened Rogues tour. I'll go deep. Here's a Supergroups in Concert that was on the radio. This is the actual radio show. A concert from that Enlightened Rogues tour. It was killer. And I have a bootleg CD of it. Capitol Theater 1979. This is a different show. And there you have it. So this was the set list from the 79 show that I saw at the Garden. Just absolutely fantastic. They come back in 1990 with Seven Turns, which I thought was amazing. Here's the Seven Turns album. If you don't have this Allman Brothers album, you need to get it. It is killer, especially the title track with Dickey Betts singing Seven Turns. But this is just a great album. Love this one. Good, clean fun. So they came back really strong in 1990 with Seven Turns. And from there, they kept growing. 1991, they do Shades of Two World. Another really fine album. This is the one with the end of the line on it. And some other good, Nobody Knows. Lots of really good songs on this album. And then they did Where It All Begins in 1994. Another really strong record. And that is it. with the Dickey Betts stuff, at least studio-wise. They would, kind of like the Grateful Dead sort of does, start releasing lots and lots and lots of live records, and they're all a little bit different, and they're all really good, and there's also a lot of compilations that you can get, and I have a bunch of them. I could show them to you here. Let me make a little room. One of my favorite early compilations was The Road Goes On Forever. I had this on vinyl, and then they expanded it on CD. Great, absolutely great stuff. And maybe we could stick that somewhere. I know this is going to go down, right? I really don't want it to go down. And then I got bootlegs, Friends in Colorado, the soundboard recording with the Allman Brothers. But they did release, there's a lot of greatest hits albums. Here is Stony Brook, live in 1971, back with Dickey Betts and Duane Allman. And then they released An Evening with the Allman Brothers, first set. Great stuff. Here's another bootleg, Merriweather Post in 1993. There's Dickey right there. And then they released a second set, which a lot of people think was the same show as the first set, but it's not. Totally different albums tour, but more great live stuff. But the Allman Brothers just kept going. Peeking at the Beacons, another live show. These all have Dickey Betts on it. And this one is called Live at the Beacon 1992, Play All Night. Another great one. There is just loads of compilations and live albums. Here's another one called The Anthology. It's kind of like The Road Goes On Forever, but even bigger and goes a little bit deeper. So there is a lot of Allman Brothers material to get into if you want. And if I had more room, I would be able to show you, but I don't. But anyway, Dickey Betts, obviously such a key part of the band. I'm a big fan of Wishbone Ash with that dueling twin guitar, but the Allman Brothers really were doing it around the same time. They both formed around the same time, but I don't think either one of the bands knew each other because one was in England and the Allman Brothers were in America. But they both have that twin guitar and, harmonizing and fading in and out. And, Duane Allman and Dickey Betts were masters of that and just gave them such a great original Southern rock sound. The songs were great. Greg Allman, of course, with that great voice that he has. Here's a great Laserdisc, live at Great Woods, again with the Dickey Betts years. After Dickey Betts was out of the band kept lots of different lineups and lots of different live albums, but they really only did one studio record, Hidden the Note. So they never really recovered as far as new material after Dickey Betts was out of the band. A terrible breakup. I remember they did like a benefit thing about the Allman Brothers a few years ago, kind of like a remembrance show or celebration of the history of the Allman Brothers, and Dickey Betts wasn't even there. I was like, how could Dickey Betts not be there? But I don't know if it was a health thing or if he just wasn't invited. I'll tell you, if you ever want to read a book on the Allman Brothers, read one. What the hell was the name of that book? I can't think. It was a book of fantastic. It's one of the best books I've ever read, actually, and it was a book that is comprised just of interviews with all the different members in chronological order. I think it was One Way Out. That's probably the name of the book. I think it was. It's an amazing book, and in my naivete, I always figured Allman Brothers, brothers. These bands are really brothers, and they love each other. And the dysfunction in the Allman Brothers is just extraordinary. It's all in that book. They really disliked each other and lawsuits and, just brutal. But it's just a shame because I guess most bands really kind of like that now. But, musically, man, they were just so great. Really the epitome of Southern rock then and now. They're really the top as far as I'm concerned. So the Allman Brothers, Dickey Betts hasn't been with the band I guess since the 90s, but what a legacy and a sad loss. Of course, he had solo albums and lots of solo records and great Southern, but I wanted to focus more on the Allman Brothers stuff. There is this great box set called Dreams. This was one of the original great boxes that came out back in the day, and this is just loaded with everything you would want related to the Allman Brothers Band. And this is a great box if you like box sets and you want a good comprehensive, because it's got solo stuff from Dickey Betts on here as well, and Greg Allman, plus the Allman Brothers stuff, plus stuff from the Hourglass before the Allman Brothers. This is just one of the all-time great box sets, and that does have some of Dickey's solo stuff as well. So let's remember Dickey Betts, 80 years old, passed away from cancer today. What a legacy. Really, like I said, again, I don't think Southern rock gets any better than the Allman Brothers. Let me know what you think. I appreciate you watching. If you're new to my channel, hit subscribe. And unfortunately, the older I get, the older these guys get. And it's not going to end, apparently, these deaths. But at least we could listen to their music forever and celebrate their life and what they contributed to our culture and our happiness with their music. And that'll always be with us. Have a great night, and I'll see you next time.